Commander Ria Torres stood at the viewport of the prison transport ship, watching Earth disappear into a tiny blue dot. The restraints around her wrists felt unnecessarily cruel, a final reminder of humanity's new status in the galaxy. The Celestial Dominion had made their judgment, and now nearly 1 billion humans were being scattered across their massive prison ships, bound for a place worse than death. 3 weeks ago, Torres had led the defense of Jupiter's colonies against the Dominion's forces. Her tactical brilliance had caught them off guard, resulting in the destruction of 2 of their capital ships, something that had never happened in the Dominion's 10,000-year history. Instead of earning humanity respect, it had sealed their fate. The Dominion Council had deemed humans too dangerous to integrate, too resourceful to ignore, and too valuable to exterminate. Their solution was Nexus 9, a death world on the outer rim of the galaxy. Commander. Dr. James Sullivan's voice drew her attention away from the viewport. The lanky physicist had somehow maintained his composed demeanor despite everything. I've been analyzing the atmospheric data they've provided about our destination. He managed a grim smile. It's worse than we thought. Torres turned from the viewport, her dark eyes fixing on the tablet Sullivan held. Tell me. The atmosphere is thick with radioactive particles, the gravity is 1.3 times Earth normal, and the ambient temperature averages around 40 degrees Celsius. Sullivan swiped through several screens. But here's the interesting part, the radiation isn't consistent with natural phenomena. Something or someone engineered this planet. A guard passed by their holding cell, the crystalline armor of the Dominion forces catching the light. Torres lowered her voice. You think they've done this to other species? No, Sullivan shook his head. The radiation patterns are ancient. Millions of years old. The Dominion probably chose this planet because it was already a death trap. The ship's massive engines hummed as they prepared for the jump to faster-than-light travel. Torres had memorized the crew rotations during their 3-day journey. How many others have you shared this with? Just Specialist Wong from engineering. She thinks we might be able to use the radiation to power basic equipment, assuming we survive long enough to build any. Sullivan paused, studying Torres's expression. You're planning something. These ships are automated for a reason, Torres said quietly. The Dominion thinks we're too primitive to understand their technology. But Wong wasn't just any engineer, she helped decode the first Dominion ship we found. Sullivan's eyes widened slightly. The prison transport protocols can be overridden. Torres straightened her uniform as best she could with the restraints. We have 3 days before we reach Nexus 9. That's 3 days to take control of this ship and as many others as we can contact. We're not going to that planet as prisoners, James. We're going as an invasion force. The next 12 hours were a carefully orchestrated dance of whispered conversations and subtle signals passed between cells. Wong worked tirelessly to decrypt the ship's command protocols while Sullivan analyzed every piece of data they could access about Nexus 9. Torres kept track of the guard rotations and coordinated with other military personnel scattered throughout the prison deck. The plan came together piece by piece. They couldn't stop the exile, that was inevitable. But they could control how they arrived. On the second day, as the ship cruised through fold space, Wong made the breakthrough they needed. Using the limited access they had to the ship's information systems, she discovered a weakness in the automation protocols. The Dominion, in their arrogance, had never considered that their prisoners would understand their technology enough to exploit it. The guard shifts change in 10 minutes, Torres told the assembled group in their cell block. Wong will trigger a cascade failure in the ship's artificial gravity system. When it hits, we'll have exactly 30 seconds before the backup systems engage. That's our window. Sullivan looked nervous but determined. And if we fail? We're already headed to a death world, Torres replied. The only difference is whether we arrive with resources or just the clothes on our backs. The plan wasn't just about taking control of their ship. Through the communication systems they'd managed to access, they'd made contact with resistance groups on 3 other prison transports. It would be a coordinated uprising across multiple ships, giving them the best chance of success. When the moment came, it happened exactly as planned. The artificial gravity failed, and in the chaos that followed, the prisoners moved with surprising precision. Torres had drilled them mentally for hours, and now that preparation paid off. The guards, caught off guard and floating helplessly, were quickly subdued. Within an hour, they had control of the bridge. Wong worked her magic on the ship's systems while Sullivan coordinated with the other vessels. Torres stood at the main viewport, watching as their small fleet of commandeered ships continued their journey toward Nexus 9. "We've secured access to the weapons systems and downloaded the Dominion's technical databases," Wong reported, her fingers dancing across the alien controls. "They really didn't think we could do this." "That's always been their weakness," Torres said. "They look at our primitive technology and assume we're stupid. They forget that humanity's greatest strength isn't our tools, it's our ability to adapt and overcome." Sullivan looked up from his station. "Commander, I've been going through their databases. Nexus 9 isn't just a death world, it's a treasure trove of advanced technology left behind by whatever civilization engineered it. The Dominion's been too afraid to explore it themselves." Torres smiled grimly. "Then we'll do what we've always done. We'll take their death sentence and turn it into an opportunity. When we land on Nexus 9, we won't be arriving as exiles or prisoners. We'll be arriving as pioneers." As the ships hurtled through space toward their destination, Torres felt a fierce pride in what they'd accomplished. The Dominion had tried to break them, but instead, they'd given humanity exactly what it needed, a challenge worthy of their determination and ingenuity. Nexus 9 awaited them, with all its horrors and possibilities, and humanity was ready to face whatever came next. "Send word to the other ships," Torres ordered. "Tell them to prepare for landing. We're going to build something on that death world that will make the Dominion remember why they feared us in the first place." The stars streaked by outside, each one bringing them closer to their new home. Whatever awaited them on Nexus 9, they would face it together, not as prisoners, but as the architects of humanity's future among the stars. The descent through Nexus 9's atmosphere was unlike anything they had prepared for. The stolen prison ships, never designed for planetary landing, groaned under the strain of the toxic, superdense air. In the command center of the lead vessel, Commander Torres watched as the ship's external cameras revealed their first real glimpse of their new home. "Those aren't mountains," Sullivan said, squinting at the main display. Through the perpetual rusty haze of the atmosphere, massive crystalline structures jutted from the planet's surface, their peaks disappearing into the clouds. "They're buildings. Or what's left of them." The landing zone Wong had selected was a relatively flat expanse of metallic ground, free from the worst of the crystalline formations. As the ships touched down, the external sensors immediately began warning of the hostile conditions outside, brutal heat, toxic air, and radiation levels that should have been lethal. "Interesting," Sullivan muttered, studying the readings. "The radiation, it's not behaving the way it should. It's almost as if it's being controlled." Torres had more immediate concerns. They had 15,000 people across their small fleet of stolen ships, and while they'd managed to access the vessel's cargo holds filled with supplies meant for the guards, those resources wouldn't last long. The first step was establishing a secure perimeter. Torres had organized teams equipped with the environmental suits they'd found in the ship's storage. The suits weren't perfect, they were designed for brief emergency repairs, not long-term survival in a death world, but they would have to do. As the first teams stepped onto the surface of Nexus 9, they discovered that the metallic ground wasn't natural, it was a platform, part of some ancient infrastructure that stretched for kilometers in every direction. Wong's engineering teams immediately began studying the material, hoping to understand its properties. It was during the third day of their landing that they made first contact with Nexus 9's other inhabitants. The perimeter sensors picked them up first, movement in the crystalline forests that surrounded their landing zone. Torres was reviewing security footage when Sullivan burst into the command center, his usual composure shattered by excitement. "They're not attacking," he said, pointing to the screens. "Look at their formation. It's a standard first contact approach pattern. Whoever they are, they're intelligent and they want to talk." Torres studied the footage more carefully. Through the haze, she could make out figures moving with deliberate precision. They were tall, their bodies seeming to shift and flow like liquid metal, and they carried no visible weapons. "Get me a channel to all ships," Torres ordered. When the communication line opened, her voice was steady. "All units, maintain defensive positions but do not, I repeat, do not engage. We may have just found our first allies on this rock." The beings emerged from the crystal forest with their arms raised in what was clearly a universal gesture of peace. Their leader, a towering figure whose silver skin rippled with iridescent patterns, stepped forward and spoke in perfect galactic standard. "I am Nexar," the being said, its voice resonating with an almost musical quality. "We are the Forgotten, and we've been waiting for someone brave enough or desperate enough to join us here." Over the next hours, Torres and Sullivan learned the truth about their mysterious hosts. The Forgotten were remnants of various species that had been exiled to Nexus 9 over the millennia. They had survived by adapting, quite literally, to the planet's unique properties. Their liquid metal appearance wasn't natural, it was an engineered response to the planet's radiation. "The ancients who built this world," Nexar explained, leading them through a hidden entrance beneath the landing platform, "they weren't trying to create a prison. They were trying to create something else entirely." The underground complex was vast, its walls lined with technology far more advanced than anything the Dominion possessed. Nexar led them to a central chamber where dozens of other Forgotten worked at control stations that seemed to merge with their liquid metal forms. "This planet is a forge," Nexar continued. "The radiation, the atmospheric composition, even the crystals, they're all part of a system designed to force rapid adaptation and evolution. The Dominion discovered this place millennia ago, but they were too afraid to use it. Instead, they turned it into their dumping ground for species they deemed too dangerous." Sullivan was practically vibrating with excitement as he studied the ancient technology. "The radiation patterns I detected, you're controlling them, aren't you?" Nexar's surface rippled in what might have been a smile. "We've learned to use the planet's systems, yes. But we've been waiting for partners with the right combination of intelligence, adaptability, and determination. We believe humanity might be what we've been waiting for." Torres understood the implications immediately. "You want an alliance?" "More than that," Nexar said. "We want to help you become what the Dominion fears most, a species that can challenge their control of the galaxy. But the process won't be easy. The changes required to survive here long-term, they will fundamentally alter what you are." Before Torres could respond, the perimeter alarms began blaring. Wong's voice crackled over the comm system. "Commander, we've got incoming. Multiple biological signatures, bigger than anything we've seen yet." On the security feeds, Torres could see them, massive creatures emerging from the crystal forests. They moved like liquid mercury, but unlike the Forgotten, these beings were clearly predatory, their forms shifting into deadly weapons as they approached. "The Hunters," Nexar said grimly. "Another of the planet's creations. They're drawn to new energy signatures. Your ship's landing must have attracted them." Torres watched as her defense teams opened fire, their weapons seeming to pass harmlessly through the creatures' liquid metal bodies. They needed a new strategy, and they needed it fast. "Your people," she turned to Nexar, "you can fight them?" "We can teach you how," Nexar replied. "But you'll have to accept the change. Now." Torres looked at Sullivan, who nodded slowly. They had come to this death world as exiles, but now they had a chance to become something more. The real question was, how much of their humanity were they willing to sacrifice to survive? Above them, the battle with the hunters intensified. Torres could hear the screams of her people over the comm system. They were out of time and out of options. "Show us," she said to Nexar. "Show us how to fight back." The chamber around them began to pulse with energy as Nexar activated the ancient systems. The radiation levels spiked, and Torres felt a strange tingling sensation beginning at her extremities. On the surface, her people were about to learn the true price of survival on Nexus 9, and the galaxy was about to witness the birth of something entirely new. The transformation had begun. The transformation process was both beautiful and terrifying. Throughout the underground complex, thousands of humans underwent the change simultaneously, their bodies adapting to Nexus 9's hostile environment in ways that defied conventional science. Sullivan, even as his own form shifted and flowed like liquid mercury, maintained his scientific objectivity, documenting everything. "The process isn't just physical," he explained to Torres as they observed the others in the transformation chamber. Their bodies had taken on the same iridescent, fluid appearance as the Forgotten, but they maintained their basic human shapes. "The radiation is altering our neural pathways, enhancing our ability to interface with the planet's technology." Torres flexed her new form, watching as her arm shifted from solid to liquid and back again. The battle with the hunters had ended hours ago, once the transformed humans had learned to adapt their bodies into living weapons. The cost had been high, they'd lost 300 people before the transformations could be completed, but they'd driven the creatures back into the crystal forests. "Commander," Wong's voice echoed in Torres's mind. The transformation had given them a form of telepathic communication that worked through the planet's crystalline structures. "You need to see this." In what had once been the engineering bay of their landed ship, Wong had discovered something extraordinary. Her liquid metal form flowed around and through the ship's systems, interfacing with them in ways that would have been impossible before. "The ships," Wong said, her excitement palpable even through their new communication method. "We can modify them using the same principles that changed us. Make them adapt like we did." The implications were staggering. If they could apply the transformation technology to their vessels, they could create ships capable of surviving conditions that would destroy normal craft. But Sullivan had even bigger news. "The Forgotten were right," he announced during their council meeting, his form shifting with enthusiasm. "This planet wasn't designed as a prison, it's an ascension engine. The ancients who built it were trying to force evolution to its next stage. The Dominion found it and feared it because it represented something they couldn't control." Nexar, who had been teaching them to control their new abilities, nodded in agreement. "Your species has taken to the transformation better than any we've seen. The speed of your adaptation, the way you're already pushing the boundaries of what's possible." Torres watched as one of her younger officers demonstrated this point by splitting his form into multiple independent bodies, each capable of performing different tasks, something even the Forgotten had never achieved. The humans weren't just adapting to the technology, they were innovating with it. But their rapid evolution brought new challenges. Some of the transformed humans began experiencing intense psychic connections to Nexus 9's crystalline structures, receiving visions of the ancients who had built this world. Others discovered they could merge their consciousness into a collective mind, sharing thoughts and memories across vast distances. "We need to be careful," Torres warned during a strategy session. "We're changing faster than we can understand the implications. We need to maintain our humanity even as we embrace these new abilities." Sullivan had been studying the ancient data archives, his liquid metal form extending tendrils into multiple interfaces simultaneously. "I don't think maintaining our old form of humanity is an option anymore," he said quietly. "But we can choose what we become." The breakthrough came when Wong's engineering team, working with several of the Forgotten, discovered how to control the transformation process itself. They could now fine-tune how much they adapted, maintaining a balance between their human consciousness and their new abilities. But just as they were beginning to master their new existence, the planet revealed another secret. Deep within the crystalline forests, in structures that had previously been impenetrable, they found evidence that Nexus 9 was more than just a single transformation engine. It was part of a network of similar worlds, each designed to test and evolve different aspects of consciousness and physical form. The ancients, Sullivan explained, projecting his findings into their shared mental space, they were creating something. An answer to a threat they saw coming, something even worse than the Dominion. That's why they built these worlds. They were trying to create species capable of fighting something that exists beyond normal space and time. Torres absorbed this information, watching as her people continued to evolve and adapt. They had come to this world as exiles, been transformed into something new, and now they were discovering that perhaps none of it was an accident. The Dominion, in their fear and arrogance, had given humanity exactly what it needed, the tools to become something greater. In the command center, transformed humans worked in perfect synchronization, their liquid metal forms flowing around each other as they integrated more of the ancient technology into their operations. They were building something unprecedented, a society that could exist in both physical and digital space, their consciousness able to shift between forms as easily as thought. "We're ready for the next phase," Wong announced, her form shimmering with excitement. "The ships have been successfully transformed. We can begin exploring the other worlds in the network." Torres stood at the viewport, watching as the toxic atmosphere of Nexus 9 swirled around their settlement. The crystalline forests glowed with internal light, pulsing in rhythm with the collective consciousness of their new civilization. They had not just survived their exile, they had transcended it. "Send word to all sectors," she commanded, her thoughts radiating through their shared network. "Tell them to prepare for expansion." The Dominion thought they were sentencing us to death, but instead, they gave us the key to the galaxy's greatest secrets. It's time to show them exactly what humanity has become. The transformed humans moved with purpose, their liquid metal forms reflecting the light of Nexus 9's strange sun. They were no longer just survivors or exiles. They had become something the galaxy had never seen before, a species that could adapt not just to survive, but to transcend the very boundaries of existence itself. The next phase of their evolution was about to begin. 3 months after their transformation, humanity's presence on Nexus 9 had evolved beyond anything the Dominion could have imagined. The once hostile surface now hosted sprawling cities of living crystal, grown and shaped by the transformed humans' collective will. Their liquid metal forms flowed through these structures, existing in perfect harmony with the ancient technology they'd awakened. Deep within the planet's core, Torres and Sullivan made a discovery that would change everything. They'd found what appeared to be a message center, its crystalline walls covered in pulsing symbols that responded to their transformed consciousness. "It's a warning," Sullivan said, his liquid form spreading across the chamber's interfaces, absorbing data at an unprecedented rate. The ancients, they weren't just preparing for a threat. They were running from it. The chamber activated fully as Sullivan decoded the final sequences. A holographic display filled the space, showing images that defied comprehension. Vast, dark shapes moved between the stars, consuming everything in their path. These entities existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, making them nearly impossible to detect until it was too late. The Void Hunters, Nexar's voice echoed through their shared consciousness. The leader of the Forgotten had become an invaluable ally, helping them understand the ancient technology. The greatest fear of the ancients. They exist outside normal spacetime, feeding on consciousness itself. Wong's form materialized in the chamber, her liquid metal surface rippling with concern. The transformation technology, the network of worlds, it wasn't just about evolution. It was about creating beings that could exist on multiple planes, beings that could fight these things. Torres watched the holographic display, seeing entire galaxies go dark as the Void Hunters moved through them. "How long do we have?" They move in cycles, Sullivan explained, processing more data. The ancients calculated their patterns. According to these readings, they're due to return to this galaxy within 5 years. The revelation spread through their collective consciousness like a shockwave. The transformed humans had grown powerful, but were they powerful enough to face an enemy that had driven the ancients to such desperate measures? Wong had been working with the ships they'd transformed, pushing the boundaries of what was possible. The vessels we modified, they can detect traces of these entities in subspace. There are patterns, echoes of their previous passages through our galaxy. The Dominion, Torres realized, her form shifting with agitation. They must know about this. That's why they've been so desperate to maintain control, why they fear any species that shows too much potential for advancement. Their suspicions were confirmed when they decoded more of the ancient records. The Dominion had found Nexus 9 and its sister worlds thousands of years ago. Instead of using the transformation technology to prepare for the Void Hunter's return, they'd turned the worlds into prisons, too afraid of losing their power to risk allowing other species to evolve. They're going to get everyone killed, Sullivan said, his usually calm demeanor disrupted by anger that caused his liquid metal form to spike and swirl. When the Void Hunters return, no one will be ready. But humanity had never been good at accepting defeat. In the months since their transformation, they'd pushed the boundaries of what was possible with their new forms. They'd learned to exist simultaneously in physical and digital space, to merge with and control the ancient technology, and to adapt faster than even the Forgotten had thought possible. Torres called a council of their newly formed society. Representatives from every sector of their transformed civilization gathered in the Crystal City's central chamber, their consciousness linking to share information at the speed of thought. We have 2 choices, Torres announced, projecting the ancient data for all to see. We can hide here, continue to develop our abilities, and hope we're strong enough when the Void Hunters arrive. Or we can do what humanity has always done, take the fight to them. Through their shared connection, she felt the resolve of her people. They had been transformed, but their essential nature, their determination, their courage, their unwillingness to submit to fate, remained unchanged. Wong presented their initial strategic analysis. The ships we've transformed can traverse subspace in ways the Dominion's technology can't match. We can reach other exile worlds, find more species they've imprisoned, offer them the chance to transform and join us. Building an army, Sullivan added, his form brightening with excitement. Not just of transformed humans, but a coalition of evolved species, each bringing their unique perspectives and abilities to the fight. The plan was audacious, perhaps even impossible, but it was exactly the kind of challenge humanity had always risen to meet. They would need to work quickly, to transform and adapt faster than ever before. They would need to convince other exiled species to trust them, to take the risk of transformation. And eventually, they would need to confront the Dominion itself. Begin the preparations, Torres commanded, her consciousness resonating through their collective network. Wong, start modifying more ships for deep space exploration. Sullivan, I want you to continue decoding the ancient archives, we need to understand everything they knew about the Void Hunters. Nexar, we'll need your people's experience to help train the new transforms we find. As her orders were acknowledged and their people began to move with purpose, Torres looked out over their Crystal City. The toxic atmosphere that had once threatened to kill them now swirled harmlessly around their transformed forms. Above, the stars beckoned, but now they held both promise and threat. They had uncovered the truth about their exile, about the ancient builders of Nexus 9, and about the terror that lurked between the stars. But knowledge wasn't enough. They would need to forge themselves into something even greater if they hoped to survive what was coming. The transformation that had saved them from death on this hostile world had been just the beginning. Now they needed to transform again, from survivors into saviors, from exiles into defenders of all life in the galaxy. The real challenge was about to begin. A year had passed since their exile, and humanity had become something the galaxy had never seen before. Their fleet of transformed ships hung in orbit around Nexus 9, each vessel a living thing of liquid metal and crystal, capable of adapting to any threat. But it was what they carried that truly mattered, hope for a galaxy that didn't yet know it needed saving. Torres stood on the bridge of their flagship, her transformed form seamlessly integrated with the ship's systems. They had managed to rescue and transform survivors from 12 other exile worlds, each species bringing unique perspectives and abilities to their growing coalition. The ship itself was a testament to their evolution. No longer bound by traditional physics, it could shift between dimensions as easily as thought. Dominion patrol detected, Wong's consciousness rippled through the ship's network. Over the past year, she had become one with the fleet's systems, able to monitor vast sectors of space simultaneously. They're getting bolder, this is the third sweep this month. The Dominion had finally realized their mistake. Reports filtered in through their intelligence network of panic among the alien empire's leadership. They had meant to exile a primitive species, instead, they had created something beyond their comprehension. Sullivan materialized beside Torres, his form shimming with urgency. The deep space monitors are picking up distortions. The Void Hunters, they're arriving ahead of schedule. The news spread instantly through their collective consciousness. Through the ship's enhanced sensors, they could see them now, vast shapes moving through the higher dimensions, leaving trails of darkness in their wake. Entire star systems were going quiet as the entities began their harvest of consciousness. The Dominion isn't ready, Nexar observed, his ancient wisdom flowing through their shared network. They've spent so long suppressing evolution that they've doomed themselves, and everyone else. Torres felt the weight of the moment. They had spent the past year preparing for this, building their forces, mastering their new abilities. The transformed humans could now exist in multiple states simultaneously, their consciousness able to split and merge at will. They had learned to grow ships from the living crystal of Nexus 9, to fold space itself, to exist in realms the Dominion had never dreamed of. But would it be enough? Launch the beacons, Torres commanded. Across their fleet, crystalline satellites deployed, creating a network that could detect the Void Hunters' movements across all dimensions. Begin the evacuation protocols for the border worlds. And send word to the Dominion capital, it's time they learned the truth. Their fleet moved with impossible grace, ships shifting forms as needed, adapting to the unique challenges of each rescue mission. On countless worlds, people watched in awe as vessels of living crystal and liquid metal appeared in their skies, offering salvation from the approaching darkness. The Dominion's response was predictable, they launched their fleet to stop the human threat. But they were fighting the last war, unable to comprehend that their former prisoners had transcended traditional conflict. When the Dominion's flagship opened fire, Torres's vessel simply absorbed the energy, its crystalline structure transforming the attack into pure computational power. Through their shared network, she broadcast a message directly into the minds of the Dominion leadership. Look beyond your empire, her thoughts echoed through their consciousness, accompanied by visions of the approaching Void Hunters. Look at what's coming. We offer you the same choice we were given, transform or perish. The battle that followed wasn't fought with weapons but with ideas. As the Void Hunters drew closer, consuming star systems at the galaxy's edge, humanity and their coalition demonstrated their power not through destruction but through salvation. Sullivan had refined the transformation process, making it safer and more controllable. Wong had developed ways to extend their crystalline network across vast distances, creating safe passages through the higher dimensions. Together, they offered the galaxy a chance to evolve beyond its current limitations. The Void Hunters arrived in force just as the first wave of Dominion worlds began their transformation. The timing was tight, too many populations to save, too little time to reach them all. But this was where humanity's greatest strength shone through. They had not simply adapted to their exile, they had learned to thrive in impossibility. Their transformed ships met the Void Hunters in battle across multiple dimensions simultaneously. Where traditional weapons and defenses would have failed, their liquid metal forms and living crystal technology allowed them to match the entity's ability to exist in multiple states. The final confrontation took place in a realm beyond normal spacetime. Torres led their forces in a desperate gambit, using the transformed ships to create a massive crystalline matrix, a construct that existed in all dimensions at once. As the Void Hunters attacked, trying to feed on the consciousness of countless worlds, they found themselves trapped in a network of evolved minds working in perfect harmony. The cost was enormous. Thousands of transformed beings sacrificed themselves, using their consciousness to power the crystal matrix that would seal the Void Hunters away from our reality. But in their sacrifice, they saved not just humanity or the Dominion, but all life in the galaxy. In the aftermath, as the transformed and untransformed alike began to rebuild, Torres stood once again in the crystal cities of Nexus 9. The planet that had been meant as their prison had become the birthplace of a new age. The Dominion was transforming, not through force but through choice, as species across the galaxy recognized the need to evolve. We should thank them, in a way, Sullivan mused, his form reflecting the light of their new sun. By trying to exile us, they gave us exactly what we needed to become something greater. Torres watched as ships arrived from across the galaxy, carrying representatives of countless species seeking to learn from their experience. The crystal cities grew and adapted, welcoming new forms of consciousness, new ways of thinking, new possibilities. They had been exiled to a death world, but they had transformed it, and themselves, into something magnificent. Humanity had not just survived, they had shown the galaxy a path to transcendence. And somewhere in the depths of spacetime, sealed away by their sacrifice, the Void Hunters learned what the Dominion had discovered too late: never underestimate humanity's ability to transform adversity into triumph.